Hey everybody, it's Ed Thompson with Single Purpose Ministries. I am so glad to see you today and thanks for joining me. I live in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I have the privilege of meeting people like you every day for relational purposes. That's what our single purpose is. Relationships with God through Jesus Christ, relationships with one another, and finally, relationships within ourselves. It's good to look at all three, and it does make life a little more enjoyable as we will discuss some of that today. Folks, I'm excited. I'm going to read a little bit and just jump right in with the book of Mark. It's about 6 verses or so about a God-man named Jesus who confronts a person on a road near a town called Bethsaida. Let me jump in right now and read some of that. It says here in verse 22 of chapter 8, when they arrived at Bethsaida, some people brought a blind man to Jesus, and they begged him to touch the man and heal him. Jesus took the blind man by the hand and led him out of the village. Then, spitting on the man's eyes, he laid his hands on him and asked, "Can you see anything now?" The man looked around and said, "Yes, I can see people, but I can't see them very clearly. They look like trees walking around." Then Jesus placed his hands on the man's eyes again, and his eyes were opened. His sight was completely restored, and he could see everything clearly. Jesus sent him away, saying, "Don't go back into the village on your way home." Now, folks, I'm going to answer the one question that I know most of you are thinking or probably asking, and it comes from the commentary below in the Life Application Bible. Why did Jesus touch the man a second time before he could see? This miracle was not too difficult for Jesus, but he chose to do it in stages, possibly to show the disciples that some healings would be gradual rather than instantaneous. Also, to demonstrate that spiritual truth is not always perceived clearly at first. Before Jesus left, however, the man was healed completely. Now, I'm going with that right now to say I'm about to open up my heart to you a little bit. In other words, we maintain and even establish relationships when we open up with one another, hear each other's stories. And I can't tell you the number of stories from men that I've heard that have taught me more about them than just being around them for months and months. A man's story and a woman's story is very important in relationships. So let me start with my first story today. It is about a ministry known as Child Evangelism Fellowship. It's initialed CEF. It's international. It's all over the world. But I'm going to be affiliated with the Greensboro office. In fact, I already am. What we do most is meet elementary school kids in after-school programs where we're completely allowed to show them and give them the gospel, even in the public schools. When the pandemic finally slows down or perhaps ends, we'll be doing a whole lot more of that. And my heart is racing to get into schools and to love these children such that I can proclaim the gospel, the evangelism part. I can also talk about discipling them by helping them grow in Christ. And then finally, I just want to be a model for them as they can see that a man who believes in God and Jesus Christ can be a man that they could aspire to be. I would hope that. I would also hope that they come to me and say, "Tell me more." With that said, the second part or the second touch of this particular story is around fundraising or fund gathering, as CEF calls it. They're really, really big about helping children in any and every way. And for me to go out and ask people for money simply is going to be a relational exercise. And the other part is that the children will benefit, obviously. So with that said, stay tuned. I'm learning from the learned on this particular avenue of fund gathering. I did not do it well when I was discipling men over the years, but this second touch has me excited. Oh my. Number 3, I'm learning Spanish. I'm teaching myself right now, and I'm being very rigorous about it. I cannot go much further unless I find a Spanish-speaking person who can engage in conversational Spanish with me. It's one thing to know a lot of vocabulary words, but putting sentences together, that's another story. So I'm going to go about doing that as I go about doing the other things I mentioned. It ties in with CEF because so many little Hispanic children are in these elementary schools, and they're truly in a lot of other places. I would love to be able to meet them and talk their language. I believe that would increase the trust. I believe they might even listen more. And I believe that I'm going to get to a place where the Hispanic culture is so much more in my life that it's just one more thing I am going to enjoy in the ministry of CEF. Now let's go to the 4th point. I know I'm moving quickly. I want to talk about a lady. She lives in another town, very close. She is so poor, I can't even explain it to you. She doesn't drive because she can't. She has enough money and trusts me enough that I can tell her how to spend it, and she's getting better and better at listening to me. I take her to the grocery store. I take her other places she needs to go. And I talk with her on the phone every day. What this has done for me is to give me firsthand evidence of what our country is up against. And that would be hunger, poverty, and things that I cannot start a ministry in. I have my ministry before me. But with her, I am able to have my eyes opened to the need in that area. And so, pray for the poor in America today. Folks, I'm going to finish up with number 5, and that would be you. The relationships I'm establishing through this medium, both of the written part of SPM, what we call the e-blast, is, well, let me stop for just a moment. Some of you aren't getting the e-blast. You're just coming to the Y-blast, the YouTube video part. I want you to be part of the e-blast, the written part as well. And then you can easily click over to where we are right now. But without my email address, you can't send me your email address so that I can put you on the Constant Contact mailing list, and you'll get both parts every week. Okay, Ed, give it to us. EDSPM@outlook.com. Rewind it if you need to, but that is your email address to me. Send me your email so that you can watch both parts. It's just a fuller message, and I don't always repeat myself in the written part. Okay, so here we are. I'm thanking you all for being here. I'm excited about where I'll be in the next week, but I'll also be working on that Y-blast and seeing how God is touching people through it. He's a great God. He's doing great things. I'll, by His will, be back to see you next week. Hasta la vista. Take care. Love you.